voted for? Do they think that the world has changed and that Mr. Trump should adapt to how the world is changed? So I want to introduce you to two of those voters. Nora is in Florida. She is skeptical about U.S. military force being used in Iran at the moment. And Mika is in Washington. She is a vocal supporter of military action at the moment. I put it to Mika, though, that when she cast her vote for Donald Trump, he had promised no new wars.
Well, I personally don't think he's taking America through war. I think that is a different strategy, and I think it's a different set of rules. We haven't, declared war in a very long time. So I really do think this is a strategic move upon the U.S. and other allies to really go ahead and put America forth and do different things in that region because of everything that's happened. So I don't think America is at war per se, and I don't think Donald Trump is going against anything he said. On top of saying that, if Iran did not change, that he would, attack Iran. So he isn't saying anything that he hasn't said on the trail.
There are words and there are actions, but the actions here is that the U.S. is using significant military force and that U.S. service members have already been killed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do think there's an escalation, but I do think that war is definitely different, and it's funded differently, and in context, we would have different things going on. And we would have, essentially boots on the ground.
Nora, how do you see things?
I see things quite differently. I do think that the escalation that President Trump, as well as with our ally Israel, the actions that we've taken have now put us in a war. War looks differently, I think, in the 21st century. I think when we did what we did, it did put us at risk of a wider regional war. Our bases have been impacted. Service members, God rest their souls, 6 of them have now died. Our allies are getting hit. Our Gulf partner allies in the Middle East have now taken hits. So, yeah, I do think that actions have shown that we are now at war. We don't currently have boots on the ground. However, the finish line keeps moving. First, we were told it'd be done in a week, then a month. Now we're hearing September, fall. So, yeah, it seems like we've now been put in an endless war. I'm 36 years old, and we've been in the Middle East almost every year since I've been alive. So, unfortunately, that this action has put us in a war. And there's a reason why no prior president has done what he's done. It's because it's a losing battle. Iran is not a place that we should be sending troops. And I'm optimistic, to Mika's point, that we won't have boots on the ground. But I'm not guaranteed it at this point from what I'm seeing.
The president himself has said he doesn't rule that out. But given the military action he started, Nora, is this what you voted for when you voted for Trump in 2024?
Absolutely not. When he ran, he told us he was the peacetime president. There are multiple clips of him saying it, multiple clips of J.D. Vance, his running mate, saying it. Multiple reasons why we were told not to vote for Kamala was because we were told peacetime president, Kamala will put us in World War III. And I'm not necessarily going to be a panican and say we are at World War III, but I will say we are very, very close to a regional war at this point. So no, I did not vote for this.
Oh, I think it's also you also have to look at peace through strength. Donald Trump has also repeatedly said that, right? And I think that the war in Iran, as you guys might want to call it, it has a lot to do with what's going on in the Middle East, as also with our quote unquote enemies. We have Russia, China. Either we intervene and it becomes a resource and a strength for us, or we do not, and it becomes a resource and a strength for other territories.
Yeah, I see things differently. I think that diplomacy should always be the answer because war is unpredictable. The terrain in Iran is very unpredictable. We are outnumbered if we do send boots on the ground. We are going to be sending our American 18-year-old to 24-year-old boys to slaughter.
I think it's kind of hard because I think if you don't do anything and others, again, like China and Russia, are able to take that area over, then we might be fighting on the back end. And so I think we either be, again, proactive or reactive.
Mika, you have family who serve in the U.S. military, and
Yes.
you have done for generations.
Yes.
Are you thinking about them possibly having to serve in the current operation?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I had family members that served, in Afghanistan, different places. So I'm definitely worried about that. But I also have a family that is very patriotic and is very concerned when we're not being proactive, as it pertains to the Middle East.
And Nora, you have family of your own in the wider Middle East area.
Yes, I have family that have served in the United States military, as well as I do have family that live in Morocco, which is not technically the Middle East, but has interests within the region, partners with the Gulf region, family members that travel back and forth that do business in that region. So, yes, the risk is great. The reward is great as well. But to me, the risk is greater. What we're seeing now with the Strait of Hormuz is an example of it. I mean, 20% of the global oil supply is now being cut off. What happens if they can't control the strait and then they can't get food in and out of the Gulf region? Those people will starve. So yeah, I mean, I understand that we need to gain control of the region, but I just don't think that taking out their Ayatollah, who they look at as a religious figure. And like I said before, war is unpredictable. So now we have all these unpredictable factors. And not to mention, we've seen gas go up by 70 cents literally in 5 days this week in the United States.
To be patriotic is also to, look at the broad spectrum and look at what serves the American people. And a lot of our policies and procedures that we've been doing over the last 30, dare I say 40 years, have not served the American people at all. And we've had, multiple things going on in the Middle East that were to our detriment. And so I think this actually might be something that is, something that we should be proactive with.
Given what happened in Iraq more than 20 years ago and the number of American troops killed in that military operation, a sensible question might be, why on earth would the United States want to carry out operations in the neighboring country of Iraq in the same area?
I think in Afghanistan, Iraq, I really didn't understand the mission there. And so that's what I mean by Americans not having a clear path, a clear goal. And to me, that's how you get into forever wars. And then, you have, people that are invested, corporations that are invested in these type of things.
What then would be the clear aim in Iran?
I think the clear aim in Iran, one, is definitely control of course, the region, the oil, and not having our enemies be able to use that as a means of economic strength and as a means of strength to be, allies with Iran and have them come together as a force against the United States.
So you'd mean, please tell me if this is accurate reading of your thoughts, you mean taking over the Middle East?
Correct. And having more of a presence than America, because again, we have always been on the back end and we've always been reactive. It's never been America having a foot forward. And to Nora's point of diplomacy, we've never actually done that either. We go in and just destroy things, or we do nothing at all.
Nora, you could hear me clarifying with Mika there about the idea of the U.S. essentially trying to take over the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I do think we're trying to take over. I don't agree that we should. I think we should be focused on our neck of the woods, our side. I agreed with us doing what we did in Venezuela. We needed to take out Maduro, and this. We also obviously have this war on drugs, which impacts us directly when the drugs speed through the border, and then also they create their humanitarian crises there. The people feed through, which is part of why I voted Republican and voted for Trump, was because I said we had a crisis at the border. It directly impacted us. However, I don't think the Middle East, I do see interest in the Middle East, but I'm very knowledgeable. But the average layman American, unfortunately, is not. So they're going to think, what do I have to do there? How is this benefiting us when we have a border crisis, when we have a war on drugs, when we have an affordability crisis? And now you're going over there, you're sending these missiles, they're blocking the strait, and 20% of the oil is cut off, and my gas is going up 70 cents. So I do think the average American does not want us over there. They do not want us having more control over there. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And also, in doing that, all you're doing by doing that is strengthening their authoritarian regimes, because the people then rally around these ayatollahs and these supposed leaders of extremism, and then they're in turn either becoming more extreme in their rhetoric or in their violence by strapping bombs on themselves and blowing themselves up in the Middle East and in our partner Europe countries. And it just doesn't benefit the world. I mean, at this point, I think the best thing would have been diplomacy. I'm sorry for what's happening to Iran and their people, but that's Iran and I think the Middle East's problem. It shouldn't be the United States problem when we're 4,000 miles away.
Nora in Florida and Mika in Washington, both Trump voters, but with opposing views on the U.S. war in Iran at the moment. And as President Trump